Good morning, everybody. I'm EJ Lopez. I'm back again. Today, I'm going to discuss and talk about the notion of bias in the media and the notion that somebody can be unbiased or independent. Um, I don't believe that's possible. I think by virtue of the fact of where we're born, where we live, where we stand in the socioeconomic, system, the country we're born in, all those bring to us biases. We have certain, preconceived ideas about how things are and how things should be, and it's the religion we're in, the family we grew up in. All those give us biases. So to pretend, and I will say pretend, that you can be or anyone can be unbiased is nonsense. To pretend that anybody's totally politically independent is nonsense. It doesn't exist, and it can't exist. So I want to knock down that fallacy today, and I'm going to tell you what my bias is right off the bat. Everyone pretty much knows I'm a liberal, and with that comes a point of view about the world. With that comes how I view life and how people should be treated and what the role of government is and what the role of other citizens are in a society. I have a liberal perspective. That's my point of view. I normally always vote for Democrats. I never vote for Republicans because they don't share the point of view that I have. So why would I vote for somebody who doesn't share the point of view I have? So that's where I'm coming from. Having said that, we look at the media, and there are some media outlets like Fox News, which in my opinion is a joke, claim to be unbiased. They're not unbiased at all. Bias can be shown in many ways, but Fox News is not unbiased. CNN is not an unbiased news outlet. MSNBC is not an unbiased news outlet. The difference between MSNBC and Fox is MSNBC tells you they're biased. They tell you up front, we're a liberal station. They say it. Fox tries to pretend that they're not. So that's kind of deceptive in my mind, and it creates an impression among people that, they're getting fair, balanced news when you're not, because you can't get fair, balanced news. It doesn't exist. Everything a news station decides is a reflection of the values of that station and what their motivations are, without a doubt. If you're going to talk about, dirty water in a lake in your town, or a fireman who rescues 20 kittens, what goes on the news is a reflection of what that editor, what that producer thinks is important, and what will get them ratings, but what they think other people think are important. So if the front page of the newspaper shows, the fireman rescuing, 20 kittens, that reflects his bias, because he doesn't think pollution in a lake is as important or would be as sellable than, pollution in a lake. So that reflects bias. Just the fact that what you report and what goes on the news and who's interviewed, all of that reflects bias. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. What's important is that you know what the entity's outlet, the news outlet, newspaper, what their bias is, and if they tell you. Newspapers do it all the time. They have editorial pages, and they tell you what their point of view is and where they're coming from. They don't try to hide. A lot of newspapers don't try to hide where they're coming from. The Washington Post regularly, New York Times regularly, are considered liberal papers, and they will tell you their bias in their editorial page. They do it all the time. So bias is not a bad thing. Now, that's the media. Let's talk about politics, and let's talk about the notion that, I've heard people say, if there was only an independent candidate, they're not happy with the two major party candidates this year. Trump is very unpopular and has very high negative ratings, and Hillary Clinton has very high negative ratings. So a lot of people are very unhappy with both of the candidates. They don't feel either of them are any good. And so there's this wish for some white knight to come along and solve everybody's problems, and he's going to be independent and not going to be influenced by anybody. That's nonsense. First of all, the first time that independent candidate takes a position on any issue, he's already going to be a partisan in some way, because you can't have to. That's the way politics is. You got to take positions on issues. You got to say what you believe, and people are not going to agree with you, or they're going to agree with you. So right off the bat, you're biased, and you're going to have, like, you're not going to be independent, because I don't even know what that word means. And, you're going to have positions. You may not share the same positions with the major parties. You may mix them up. But by and large, you're going to have to take positions if you're a third-party candidate. So the reality this year is that we have two highly unpopular candidates running for president. And, people have different views on, who we should support and who we should not support. And I'll get into that later. I'm a Hillary Clinton supporter. Not necessarily because I'm particularly in love with Hillary Clinton, but I think among all the candidates that were running this year, she was the best qualified. That's how I feel. I think she would be the best. I think she's been, harassed by the media for 20 years. The Republicans have been maligning her for 20 years, calling her a crook and blah, blah, blah. Nothing's ever happened with it. Nothing's ever been proven. So I kind of, don't believe a lot of this crooked Hillary stuff at all. And I think she's a good public servant. So that's where I am. A lot of people don't feel like I do. A lot of people feel, that she's not good or whatever, and people like Trump, and that's why we go with the two candidates. But to say that you're an independent is just, I can't even understand that. The one thing I really can't understand is, although you may not like the presidential candidates this year, you may not feel that they're good candidates, there are other elections going on. We have a House of Representatives and a U.S. Senate. Now, in some states, depending upon where you are, I think a third of the Senate periodically comes up for election. And the entire House of Representatives, the United States Congress, comes up for election every 2 years. Those congressional races are important because who you vote for decides what's going to happen in Washington. That's your voice in Washington, is your representative in Congress. So if you're a liberal, like me, there's no way you're going to vote for a Republican to be in Congress, because that person doesn't represent your point of view, regardless of who they are. I view a congressman simply as a vote in Congress. That's what they are. Do they support the things that I support, or are they opposed to them? If they're opposed to them, I'm not going to support them. If they support what I support, then that's who I'm going to vote for. So the people who support what I support are all Democrats, so I'm going to vote for the Democrat pretty much all the time, unless there's some major change, or the candidate's horrible or totally unqualified or doesn't stand for anything that I agree with, whatever it may be. The other thing about people who say they're independent is I find that those people are often looking for the perfect candidate. The perfect candidate who has nothing bad in their record, nothing that they disagree with. Though people like that don't exist. There's no human being who's perfect. Everything in life involves compromise. Everything. Whether you're a representative in Congress, whether you're in a marriage, whether you work, whatever your job is, whatever your career is, everything is compromise. So to think that you're going to have a public official who you agree with down the line on everything, that doesn't exist. We live in a democracy. We have to compromise. Our whole government was set up by a compromise. The reason we have a House of Representatives and a United States Senate is because of a compromise. When we were setting up the Constitution and setting up the form of government we have, there was a compromise between big states and little states, and that's how we wound up with a Senate with 100 members, 2 from each state, and a Congress that represents the population of every state. That was a compromise. Everything's a compromise. You don't get what you want all the time. So, people who are extreme on the left and extreme on the right, who pound their feet and say, I'm not voting for Hillary, or I'm not doing this because it's Bernie or bust, that's ridiculous. Just like the far right in the Congress has caused 6 years of gridlock. Nothing has happened in Congress because you have this small element of congressmen, these Republican congressmen, who won't bend on anything. They won't even bend in their own caucus. They won't even compromise with their own party over different things to get the government, to function properly. The government's shut down several times because these people won't bend. That's not democratic. That's not how a democracy can work. We have to be able to work together and compromise and put our feelings aside and go with the best option. So my argument to you today is, number one, there's no such thing as a nonpartisan candidate. It doesn't exist. Number two, there's no such thing as an unbiased anything. Everybody comes with biases. Everyone comes from a point of view. If you want to try to distill a position on an issue, the best way to do it is to look at different sources, understand those sources. Where is this information coming from? Who are these people? What is their point of view? What's their agenda? Whatever it is. And then take what they say, because it may have value, and, put it all together. And you'll come to your position. So that's where I am. That's today's show. And I hope you got some out of it. And have a great day. I don't think I'm going to the beach today because it's raining, and so I'll probably go to the movies and see this movie about some internet killer or something like that. Anyway, have a great day, bye guys. Have a nice day. Good to talk to you.